Max Ralph, by my count, I think we are still at 54 days. But having said all of that, it started a long time ago. Max, we're pretty sure Penn State's got its next permanent head football coach. It is Matt Campbell. We have a lot to talk about here on a special edition of the Blue White Breakdown Live. First of all, let's get to your thoughts. Also, shout out to you for the Lynn Swan jersey in the background.
Yeah, you like that one?
I love that one.
As a kid, through high school, I always wanted a Lynn Swan jersey, and my mom finally pulled through and got me one year, and it was awesome.
Max, as a Cowboys fan, he broke my heart in two
Yeah.
Super Bowls, but I still respect the man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I gotta say, as a segue, you gotta respect the job that Pat Kraft pulled off here. It was not simple. It was
It
not
didn't
the
look
way.
good for a while, too. Let's be
No,
honest.
no. It did not look the way many people thought it should or was going to. It started with Mike Elko, then Kalani Sitake backs out, but he's wound up with a really good coaching candidate in Matt Campbell of Iowa State,
Yeah.
who is widely perceived as a guy who has done more with less in Ames, Iowa, where his resources just simply are not on the level of what Penn State is. He's turned this program into a winning
Yeah.
program. In my story
Consistent.
on
Very consistent.
PennLive.com,
Yep.
I mentioned Iowa State had just 2 9-win seasons in its entire history before Matt Campbell took over. He's won 8 games 3 times, 9 games once, and 11 games once. He is a fantastic coach, a program builder, and with the resources that Penn State is putting into this program, I'm very curious to see what he can pull off in Happy Valley.
Me as well, Max. So as we record this, we are live here. It is 8:10 here on a Friday night. Still a couple of minor hurdles to cross. I only
Mhm.
bring that up, Max, because of what what came up earlier this week, where it looked like it was going to be somebody else, and it was not. But this is definitely more serious. It's definitely something that is all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. But when you think about Penn State's search, and I think that's what Penn State fans want to know, Max. Pat Kraft had a lot to say when he cut ties with James on October 12th about what he was looking for and what he wanted to do. I don't think we should focus on who was not hit. He wanted some guys, so let's not focus on that. But let's focus on what Matt can do, and also how you feel like this played out. And also, we have to bring up Terry Smith, the 6-16. There was a lot. There were so many layers to this, Max, that it was a fascinating last 6 games of the season, and I think that you have to give Pat a lot of credit for thinking on his feet very quickly after the BYU coach who he thought he had. It didn't work out, but it was a pretty quick pivot.
Yeah, it was. And it was the perfect pivot. I mean, when you've gotten to this point, there aren't a whole lot of options out there. I mean, Johnny and I just talked about it
Yeah.
on the podcast on Thursday. Like, if you told us on October 13th that this was going to be a hire, I think it would be well received then. But just the way that this search has gone with a couple of swings and misses, there were some sour feelings about Pat Kraft and the way this administration handled things. But in the end, it's worked out. I mean, Matt Campbell is a good hire. I'm not going to sit here and promise you that he's going to win a Big Ten
Right.
championship or a national championship. But on paper, this is an intriguing and a good hire. It is different from what James Franklin was, which
Yeah.
is what Penn State was looking for. And the process wasn't great. I mean, trying to pull Kalani Sitake out of BYU was not easy.
Yeah.
Kraft almost got it done, but it was an interesting choice, and it kind of blew up in his face, and the public perception was not good. And I think Penn State was scrambling for maybe 24 hours,
Yeah.
and then they landed on Matt Campbell, and you are seeing an outpouring of praise from all corners of the college football world and some corners of the NFL world too. This is a guy in Matt Campbell who had some prospects to join an NFL team at different points in his
Yeah.
career. There are a lot of people who are big proponents of Matt Campbell, and now he's finally going to have, the national stage to pull it off if he can do it.
Yeah. And I think what I would say to Penn State fans, Max, is that if you've ever been to Ames, Iowa, um, unless you're from there, I wouldn't recommend staying there for a very long time. He stayed there for 10 years. He built that program up. They won a Fiesta Bowl. I think he had I think it's been 134 years of Iowa State football. I think he's the only one to have an 11-win season.
That's correct.
Now, is it a big leap? Yes, it is. But I think if you look at his background, he was a Division III standout on a team. I think that the team Mount Union went 54-1, and so everywhere he's went, though, he has found a way, and I think it speaks to him and his message and his ability, whether it's a player or coach. He's won everywhere he's gotten to. My question, though, is, other than the national media, there's a lot of Penn State fans, Max, that probably don't know a lot about this guy, and they're like, well, but what would you say? I have some thought. I just think, though, if you can win, you can win, and he's won at every level, and I think it speaks well for him. I'm very curious to see, though, his first press conference, because of the expectations, right, Max? Because the expectations at Iowa State are one thing. It's not the same. It's not the same at Penn State.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, Penn State is under a bigger microscope.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why James Franklin, who was winning very consistently more than almost anybody else in the country, was fired almost solely because he couldn't get over the hump against an Ohio State and top 10 teams. Obviously, there are also some other nuanced factors in that with his approach to NIL usage and the transfer portal. And I think those things will be different under Matt Campbell. They better be, or else I think Pat Kraft's going to regret having hired him. But James Franklin went 4-21 against top 10 opponents and 1-10 against Ohio State. Matt Campbell is 4-7 against AP top 10s right now in his career. That's a better mark. He's had fewer chances, definitely. But now that he has the resources, this is the upside play. I mean, Franklin reached his ceiling. You got what you were getting out of James Franklin. This is an upside play with a guy who is well regarded, who has taken a program out of the dumpster and turned it into, you can't say national power, but nationally relevant at the very least. And that is what Pat Kraft was looking for. I think, the investment from the university is going to be massive. There was a report from Matt Fortuna that there's going to be $30 million in NIL for this program and $17 million in assistant pool, which is that's a big number for assistants. So Matt Campbell isn't going to have any excuses. Let's put it that way. I think it's a good hire. I'm very curious to see how this goes, but he's not going to have any excuses if that's the case.
I agree, Max. And also, if you really think about it, when James Franklin got hired from Vanderbilt, there's a parallel there. Like, it was a big leap. I know it was the SEC, but Vanderbilt, when he was there, was a team that, he had some success. But I don't want I just want to say that I think Iowa State in the Big 12, what Matt was able to do there, I don't think it's all that dissimilar. But I'm very curious to see what you said is, what can Matt do? Because he's used to developing 3-star prospects basically his whole life. So Matt, what can he do with 4-star guys and the occasional 5-star? Because I don't really think it's that different. When James came to Penn State in 2014, he had a lot of 3-star guys that he was trying to overachieve with. I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, look, Penn State is it's different in the sense that Penn State is just trying to get over the hump of being a national champion rather than just getting back to being relevant. But Matt Campbell's already proven that he can do that. He did a great job at Toledo, which is a program that has even fewer resources than a Iowa State. And then he makes Iowa State into a top 15 team in a couple of seasons. He goes to 2 Big 12 championships. This is both Penn State's chance to break into the national power conversation and Matt Campbell's chance. I mean, the guy has turned down many chances to leave Iowa State in his career. And now Pat Kraft and Penn State have become an attractive enough destination for him to try and reach that goal of winning a national championship. The recruiting is going to be a question. Will he be willing to set the market on high 4-star, 5-star kids like James Franklin was unwilling to do? It was never about money with high school kids for James Franklin, which whether you believe in those ethics or not, there's a reason why there were 2 or 3 in-region kids who are 5 stars in this summer that did not go to Penn State when Penn State wanted them. Is Matt Campbell willing to make those changes? Is he willing to have a team that features 20 to 30 transfers because they're the best players on the market and he's willing to pay them? James Franklin wasn't willing to do that. In this year where he had a team that was projected to win a national title, they only brought in 8 transfers.
Right.
You can look at there are numbers. I had a story up on PennLive this morning, and I also cited a ESPN article from Max Olson where teams that added the most experience in the portal pretty consistently had great success this year. Ranked teams galore brought in a ton of transfers who had experience at their previous stops. And also the 4 teams who brought in the most starts per player as transfers are all in the top 15. Matt Campbell has to commit to that. That was part of the play in firing James Franklin. I think Matt Campbell is going to do it, and I think that the resources here give him a great runway to try and win a title here.
Listen to the Blue-White Breakdown on a Friday night. It's kind of a late Friday night, but there's big news with Penn State. They have their guy pending Board of Trustees approval. It's Matt Campbell. Max, one of the things I think that Penn State fans, especially older fans like myself, I'm not a Penn State fan, but older people, they struggle to wrap their heads around is you head up our recruiting coverage, and they're going to focus on, well, Penn State did not add, and their whole class got decimated. James Franklin had something to say about that. But when you think about the way that the college football is going, and you talked about the transfer portal, I mean, you've written some stuff. You do not put a lot of, I wouldn't say, what I would say is it's not the worst thing in the world that I think they plan for them. It's going to be a very small class, right?
Yeah.
That was what's going to happen when you move on October 12th. But for Penn State fans that are used to being a top 10, top 15 recruiting class, what would you say to the new world of Penn State football and how this, I don't want to say it's not important, but I feel like it's one of the least important things about Penn State football moving forward.
Correct. All that matters now is Matt Campbell being able to retain some of the good young talent that Penn State still has, being able to pull some of his top talent from Iowa State with him, and then being able to hit the transfer portal heavy. Because as I wrote in that story this morning, that was kind of the whole thesis of the story is like, look, this is a disastrous signing class for Penn State. But when Pat Kraft fired James Franklin in the middle of the season and understanding how James Franklin approached recruiting, that kids were committing to him and they weren't getting a whole lot of money, you had to have some foresight that this was going to happen. They weren't going to sign a whole lot of kids unless they miraculously hired a coach a week and a half before signing day and were able to just throw some things together. This was expected, maybe not to this extent, but it will be okay. It is not the most important thing because even the kids who signed at Iowa State as freshmen in this early signing window can transfer. They can transfer when the portal opens in January. It's happened a lot of times. Look no further than Ohio State's Julian Sayin, quarterback who could win the Heisman this year. He quite literally did that. He signed with Alabama, transferred to Ohio State before the winter was over. These things are fluid. College football is not what it used to be. Matt Campbell should have no issues putting a roster together. He's going to have to work for it, but there are a lot of creative avenues that he can put together a good roster for next year. And also, something that I think I've mentioned before but is worth remembering, Penn State is looking a lot like 2024 Indiana to me right now because they have a very easy schedule next year. I mean, you get Michigan and USC are probably the best 2 teams on the schedule, and neither of them are making the college football playoff this year. You go 10-1, or excuse me, 11-1, somehow 12-0. Like, it's on the table for Penn State to make the playoff next year. Matt Campbell's going to have to hit the transfer portal, but there is a path to success in 2026.
Yeah, really, the transfer portal and the new rules, it enables you, if you're a good coach and you have a good program and you have a good NIL program, the fast tracking is really more evident now than I remember the transfer portal 5 years ago. It was kind of a different world, but with Matt, I just hope though the jump is not too big for him. I don't think it is because I think that even though I was making fun of Ames, Max, that is a pretty big jump that he made.
Yeah.
And he got real comfortable real fast. I mean, look, what they've been able to do in and outside of the Big 12, but I mean, even against Iowa, I think speaks volumes to, uh, I think he's done. I feel like he's done more with less, and I'm very curious to see Max when he gets a roster that's got 4 stars and maybe an occasional 5 star, and he's
Mhm.
not dealing with 3 stars and walk-ons. I think that represents his upside. And I
Yep.
think when you think about the 54 days and where Pat Kraft started and what he said about big names, there's a world, Max, that this guy is not perceived as a big name, but it could turn out that he was a very big name that people just didn't realize he was.
That is absolutely correct. I mean, that's exactly what Matt Campbell is. When James Franklin was on the hot seat in 2021 and
Yeah.
2020, like Matt Campbell's name was coming up then. It's kind of surreal that he's going to be the next head coach at Penn State because his name has circulated for so long in so many different places. I think it's a win for Pat Kraft. Like he tried to swing big,
He
that
did.
didn't work out, but he ended up with a guy who is pretty solid, and I think that it is a win. Bob, before we get to anything else, I just want to
Yeah.
say I'm keeping one eye on social media because things are going to keep
I could
coming
see
out
that. You're
all
just doing it
throughout the
right now.
night.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Um, According to a few reports from CBS and also Audrey Snyder, Penn State is retaining Terry Smith on Matt Campbell's staff, which may or may not be a surprise, but it's big news in my opinion, and I think you would agree with me.
Absolutely. I think a report came out a couple days ago, excuse me, that he was receiving interest as a head coach. And I would say that he should absolutely have received that interest for what he did and how that
Mhm.
team changed in 6 games. They went 3-3. They had Indiana, on death's door. That would have been such a great win. But I think listening to the way that Terry talked about Penn State, what it meant for him to be a captain. His dad went to Penn State. Um, it was going to be hard for him to leave Penn State. And I think we both talked on previous podcasts about like of all the people of the staff, and there's a couple people I think other than him that you want to keep. He's got to be the guy. I mean, he with what he did on the field, but also even he was a great cornerbacks coach. He's a
Yeah.
great recruiter, a Penn State captain. I think after finding the head coach, I think that was paramount, maybe number 2 on Pat Kraft's list to make sure that he had a place if he wanted to be at Penn State. And I think it really bodes well for the program. But I also think, Max, it says a lot about Terry Smith to be able to coach as well as he did as a head coach, but also realize that, look, Penn State has meant a lot to me, and this is where I'm going to do best, and this is where I'm the happiest. I think it's a great move, and I don't think it might have been an easy decision, but I think it's a great decision for Penn State.
Yeah, look, Terry Smith is like essentially taking a demotion,
Yeah,
right? Like, I mean, he became the head coach, had some support from the behind the scenes people to be the head
yeah,
coach at Penn State, and he's not getting the job. Matt Campbell is, but they're retaining him. I'm certain he's getting a nice raise. But his presence at
yeah.
Penn State is, I mean, it can't be overstated
Right.
because it's not just on the field where, like you mentioned, he was a great cornerbacks coach. Penn State never had guys drafted from the cornerback room, and then in the past 6 years, they've had, I want to say, 6 or 7 guys drafted.
Yeah,
And then he comes in, he does a great job as a head coach, but he's also a recruiter. I mean, Penn State dominates the Pittsburgh area. That's all because of Terry Smith. It's dominated most of Pennsylvania, and a lot of that has to do with Terry Smith.
yeah,
And he's also the truth teller in the building. We talked about that a ton while he was the
yeah.
head coach. He's not afraid to tell anybody, whether that is a player, another coach, whoever it may be, what he believes and what he believes is right for the program. That is really important. His motivation, his presence as a letterman and a former captain just really can't be overstated how important this is for Penn State. And not I believe the hiring of Matt Campbell is a win. I
Yeah.
think keeping Terry Smith is almost just as big of a win.
Yeah, Max, I went to the University of Scranton, and I don't use big words a lot, but I think the word I would use with Terry is conduit, right? Like you want
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
that you want somebody that can be so well respected, so well valued, and it's also um, just a Penn State guy that is a Pennsylvania guy that for somebody that's coming in he can lean on him, and
Mhm.
he could also, I'm sure Terry's going to tell Matt the truth right away about what he needs to do.
Oh,
But
yeah.
of all the guys on the Penn State staff that Penn State could have retained or will retain, he was number one. There wasn't even, I don't even think it was close. I
No.
mean, he was the guy, and I just think that I think Terry, that 6 year, that 6 game coaching stint that he had, I think he's even going to be even better now, and actually demand more respect
Oh,
for
yeah.
what he's done. It was important. I think we talked about it last Monday that if you're Pat Kraft, you make him an offer he can't refuse and make him refuse it. And as important as it is that they found their next head coach, I think it's right below there. They had to keep Terry. They did. It's a double win for Penn State.
Absolutely. And also, the thing with Terry is so many players came out by his side
Right.
in support, saying hire him as head coach. They didn't get that wish, but him still being there
Yeah.
is probably going to keep a couple of guys in town.
Yeah.
I'd say it's still going to have kids transferred. Like that is going to happen. It's probably going to be a lot of them. I'm not going to give an estimate
Yeah.
because it's probably going to be a lot no matter what. But there are going to be some guys who don't leave because Terry's still here. I mean, I'm not saying what's going to happen, but I look at a guy like Darius Dixon, who is a very talented true freshman corner, and Terry Smith is the guy who recruited him.
Yeah.
That is his guy,
Yeah.
and that's probably a huge factor in potentially keeping Dixon at Penn State. I think this is big.
So we're going to probably, assuming this goes through, I keep saying that because of the BYU thing. But Max, assuming this goes through, we're going to hear from Matt, I think, very soon in the next couple of days, hopefully. But
Yeah.
where do you see they're going to have a bowl game.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're going to play in it, and there's going to be an announcement on Sunday. With Matt and Terry and what they could potentially have coming back, you got to throw out the recruiting class. There's going to be the transfer portal, but when you just think about 2026 and Penn State, and it's early, but I think this was considering where he started, considering what it looked like 3 days ago. This was a really remarkable scramble for Pat, and he did the right thing. But to keep Terry, we haven't mentioned Ethan Grunkmeyer too. I think he's a
Yeah.
key piece as well. But as you look at Penn State in 2026 in the future, because that's what Penn State fans want to know about. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at, and what do you think about their place in the Big Ten if Matt Campbell can do what he did at Iowa State and he can do what he did at Toledo, and you have Terry Smith helping him? I just think they are in such a better spot with those two than I like 2 days ago. I was like, man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Penn State, because if they don't get a guy like Campbell, who I think is pretty proven, I think I don't want to say dire, but I think it could be a lot different for Penn State.
I agree with you. And I think the team is immediately in the upper half of the Big Ten next
Yeah.
season. And I think moving forward, there's no reason Penn State can't get back to being in that top 3 to 4 teams in the conference. Like the money is there. It's just about whether Matt Campbell can use it in the right way. And he's had some success with transfers at Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
And like Pat Kraft had a very clear vision of what he wanted this to look like when he fired James Franklin. That definitely came up in the interview process. He didn't hire Matt Campbell just to not do what Pat Kraft fired James Franklin for not doing. So I think that this team is going to be in the top end of the Big Ten sooner than later because you're going to get big names out of the portal. You're going to get some of those big name recruits that Franklin couldn't get. Maybe there are going to be misses on other guys that Franklin would have gotten. Maybe because of the change in philosophy, things will look different. Like a lot of things are going to look different. I
Yeah.
mean, Franklin was here for more than 11 years. Like
Yeah.
everything about Penn State football was tied to James Franklin. It's going to look a whole lot different, but there is absolutely no reason Penn State can't continue to be a top 10 team in the country and potentially do it as soon as next season.
Yeah, that I think that is that's the ceiling. So we're going to see. But Max, 48 hours ago or 72 hours ago, after what happened earlier in the week, and Kalani was not the only coach that kind of leveraged Penn State, but my sense of the Penn State fan base and where they were, it's a lot. I think it's not 180 degrees different, but a lot different than what it is now. I just want to say, I want to ask you one thing.
Okay.
It would be so. Do you think that I'm a little surprised that Matt has not been a head coach at a bigger school sooner, but I think that he has his reasons, and I think loyalty is one of them, and all of that. But I just wonder if maybe, do you feel like maybe he should have been a little bit higher up on Pat's list? I know he talked at his on October 13th was the news conference. I know he talked about Penn State and all the things he wanted to accomplish, but I just wonder if maybe he could have been a guy. He should have been a little bit higher up on the list, I guess, is what I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've also seen some stuff about Campbell not entertaining opportunities to leave until the end of the season, which could make things a little bit different. Maybe we give Kraft the benefit of the doubt there. But yeah, I think it's fair to say he could have been higher up the list because it was going to be really hard to pull some of the guys Penn State wanted away from their schools. I respect the hustle by Pat Kraft. You fired a successful head coach.
Yeah.
You might as well go try and get an absolute dude. But I think they might have gotten one in Campbell. It's hard to sit here and make any proclamations or predictions about his career because this is another step up. Big 12 is a Power 4 conference, but it's not the Big 10, and it's not Penn State. But everything on paper says that Matt Campbell is going to do a good job, and I think it's a good hire. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say he maybe should have been considered a little sooner. I mean, his name was out there, as his name has always been out there when jobs of this caliber open up. But it does certainly seem like Penn State maybe waited too long to shift to him.
All right, Max, I have one more question for you here on the blue-white breakdown. We're talking about Penn State's new coach per, Board of Trustees approval, the pivot that Pat Kraft made. But in a sentence or two, if you had to describe from your perspective what the last 54 days have been like, is there like a word or is there something that jumps out to you immediately? Because it's been like, just think about all the things we saw, Max. We saw a team that was just 3-3. I mentioned I thought they could be 4-8. Terry Smith jumps in. They don't have a set running back. Terry Smith has to open up at Iowa, go to Ohio State, go to Indiana. They're 3-6. It looks like the sky is going to fall down. But he righted the ship. The coaching search looked like it was never ever going to end. And there were so many twists and turns. When you think about the last 54 days, Ethan Grunkmeyer's development, right? The seniors lobbying for Terry. When you think about all that, like, what are one or two things that come to your mind?
I think I've written the word roller coaster in stories on PennLive.com at least like 100 times this past 2 months. And I just don't think there's a better way to describe it than that. I mean, you start down with losing that third straight game, including the one to UCLA, which is one of the worst losses in college football history.
Yeah.
Drew Aller's out for the season. James Franklin is getting just crushed as he walks into the tunnel at Beaver Stadium.
Yeah.
His press conference was not a good sight.
No.
And that's your low point. And then Pat Kraft comes out here and he gives all these great like diagnoses of what he sees for the future of Penn State. And everybody's like, yeah, okay. Like if we can pull this off, fine. Terry Smith comes in. He has a great opening press conference. You're starting to go up. And then you lose 3 more games. And so you go back down the roller coaster. And then they win. They finally get one. And it's a great atmosphere. They're carrying Terry Smith off the field. Katron Allen turns into the program's all-time leading rusher. Ethan Grunkemeyer looks like a quarterback that can become the future here or somewhere else. He looks really good wherever it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go back down because Pat Kraft swings at Kalani Sitake and it blows up. but now we're back on the upswing, and I think we're probably going to plateau for a little while. I'm hoping we can all get off the ride soon, because I might have whiplash, honestly.
Yeah, Max, I would say there's a lot of things that have gone on since I've covered the team, and I don't want to get into a lot of it, but it's been a 6 months when you just talk about football, unlike I think any other that I've covered. Now the firing, when you're the number two team in the country in mid September,
Yeah.
has a lot to do with it. But it like everything you said, to lose to UCLA, lose to Northwestern with the talent on this team that's going to get drafted, and then they were in dire straits, and the pivot, and then the coaching search where you think it's going to be one way. Pat says, "Look, we're gonna get who we need to get and get him here." And at the end of the day, um, they might have found the guy they needed all along, even though it was not somebody they were looking for at the start. That could be a story like that's outside of the program, but I just think that there's a reason I think that Pat found Campbell, and I would not be surprised if uh, all the coaches they considered, that maybe I can make a case that if you can win at Iowa State and at Ames, that maybe this was the guy that was the best fit for Penn, or close to the best fit all along. And I think that says a lot about, right, the unexpected, I think, is what I would say the most about this last 54 days. It's been a wild ride. Max, I don't know about you. I'm glad it's kind of
Oh yeah.
over. I hope you feel the same way, but I just think Penn State fans should focus on the future, because what happened since October 12th has been just remarkable. And for a team that was supposed to be back, you and I can remember back to last January and where they were and how close they were. And for them to kind of face plant and pick themselves up, I think it's remarkable. I'm excited to hear from Matt. I'm glad that Pat Kraft was able to get this guy, because if he doesn't get this guy, I think we're podcasting about a different topic, and nobody wants that. So I just want to leave it there with you. But I think it's been a very, very, I'm going to say, educational six
Okay.
months or excuse me, 54 days for me. Because if you would have told me at the start how this is going to end, I would have said, you're full of it. I would have never thought all this was going
Yeah.
to happen. I'm
Yeah.
glad I got to watch it, but I don't want to watch it again. How about you?
I'm right there with you. I mean, we spent 5 months between the end of January and I guess that's 7 months between the end of January and the end of August
Yeah.
to talk about how this team was going to win a national title, and
Yeah.
we ended up here. I mean, it's just like it's unlike anything else. Penn State's had a lot of years of college football, and this is a new one for a lot of people. The way that a lot of this went down, and if you're a Penn State fan, even if you're a casual college football fan, in 10 years you're going to look back and say that was kind of a crazy time at Penn State. Like,
I think it would be, for any team that was number two in the country, I think it'd be the craziest sequence ever. But yeah,
yeah,
Max, I just want to say to the Penn State fans that are listening or watching this live that it's been very interesting covering this. I think, Max, you and I are excited about what
yeah,
the next month or so is going to bring before they get to spring practice. But I don't know that we're going to ever see a season quite like this, second half of the season quite like this again. I think Pat Kraft is hoping he never has to go through a 54-day stretch quite like this again either. But it's been a wild ride. I've enjoyed it, Max. I know you've enjoyed it. Penn State fans, the new, after the hiring of the coach, it's not over. You might be going to New York City for a bowl game. You might not be, but for those, I think for the Penn State fans that stuck by this team when they were 3-6, they saw some tremendous growth. They saw some history being made, and even if they were upset earlier in the week, Max, I think they should feel pretty good about where Penn State is right now with Matt Campbell, because he is a guy that I think you have to look at history, and usually when a guy wins at every level, and he played football, he was an elite football player as well, I think it bodes well for the future.
I'm with you. it's been a long road to get here, but Penn State's in a good spot right now. It's a good hire. It's probably the best hire you could have made at this point in the coaching search, and there's reason to believe that the future is bright in Happy Valley. I think it's all good stuff.
Max, I enjoyed our first ever, and maybe our last ever, live Friday Blue White Breakdown podcast.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we won't have to do this again, but you know, the situation called for it. Happy to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed it listening. And we'll be here at least Monday. We'll have some bowl stuff for you, and I think Max and I are both very excited to meet Matt Campbell.